The repair outpost on Velshara had the distinct personality of a dying animal that refused to admit it. Metal plates groaned in the heat, conduits rattled under shifting pressure, and the entire structure hummed like it resented being alive. With two suns beating down from opposite angles, the bay felt less like a workspace and more like a punishment chamber designed by someone with a grudge against engineers. Kale Torin crouched beside the primary shield generator, half inside an access panel that looked like it had lost a fight with a meteor. His handheld scanner displayed a glowing choir of angry red indicators: thermal drift, coolant starvation, harmonic instability. If the generator were a person, it would be screaming. "Thermal output is amber again," Zikra called from across the bay. Kale didn't bother raising his head. "Everything here is amber, including my soul." Zikra rotated two of her forearms, her glossy purple-black exoskeleton catching the harsh overhead lights. Nearly 7 feet tall, she moved with the unsettling grace of someone who never had to worry about back pain or gravity. "Does human sarcasm improve system efficiency?" she asked. "It prevents me from walking into the desert and evaporating," Kale said, wiping sweat off his brow. "You Velkuri evolved for volcanic climates. My species evolved indoors." Zikra produced a clicking sound that his translator rendered as mild amusement. "Your fragility is statistically remarkable." "It's an art form." The bay entrance darkened. Squad leader Threx entered, towering, scarred, antennae angled in disapproval. Everything about him radiated veteran energy, the kind that judged you before speaking. "The human complains about heat again," Threx said. "The human," Kale replied, "is preventing your entire outpost from detonating the next time someone sneezes too hard near the shield perimeter." Threx clicked once. "Velkuri 4, you are irritating but not wrong." The afternoon dragged forward in the familiar rhythm of frontier life. Recalibrate, replace, test, repeat. Pretend the distant artillery wasn't inching closer each day. Kale worked in focused silence while Zikra monitored relays and Threx's squad patrolled the perimeter. During a short break, Zikra approached him with uncharacteristic enthusiasm. "Tell me more about this earth beverage." "Coffee." Kale sighed dramatically. "A bitter, burnt-tasting liquid that convinces you life is manageable. And you have been deprived of it for months. Which explains everything about me." Zikra's antennae fluttered in what his translator labeled sympathetic disbelief. He was about to elaborate on caffeine withdrawal when the world turned white. No warning, no siren, no rising tension. One moment he was describing a drink. The next, a thunderous eruption ripped through the equipment bay. Kale felt himself lifted, thrown, crushed against a cargo crate, his ears filled with an agonizing ringing that drowned out every other sound. Smoke swallowed the room. Red emergency lights bled through the haze. "Kale!" Zikra's voice was distant, warped. He forced his vision to cooperate. Shapes moved through the haze, compact, armored silhouettes, not Velkari, not friendly. His brain split into two functions: engineering instinct, breach team, coordinated entry, unknown weapons. Survival instinct, move or die. Then he saw her. Zikra lay on the floor, shoulder plating shattered, dark violet blood pooling far too quickly. Her upper limbs trembled, then went limp. Something old and wordless woke inside Kale. Not logic, not training. Something deeper, older than fire, older than tools, older even than fear. Protect your own. His hand closed around the nearest solid object. A torque wrench. Heavy, familiar, human. The smoke shifted as one of the insurgents stepped forward, rifle raised, posture ready, expecting a soldier. What he got instead was a contractor standing barefoot in a haze of smoke, gripping a wrench like it was a weapon forged for him. Kale's breathing steadied. The ringing in his ears faded into a low, primal roar. He didn't think about consequences. He didn't think about odds. He didn't think about surviving. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate, absolute, because some instincts were older than caution. And humans, across every era of their bloody, stubborn history, had always been terrible at running when someone they cared about was bleeding. The first insurgent surged through the smoke with the confidence of someone who had never truly feared a human. His armor gleamed in the red emergency lights, weapon raised, steps crisp and precise. Kale didn't think, his body simply reacted. The wrench swung upward in a brutal, perfect arc. Metal slammed into the helmet with a hollow, violent crack that vibrated all the way up Kale's arm. The insurgent hit the floor. Kale's breath came ragged. His hands trembled not with fear but with something sharper, something primal that flooded his veins with fire. Behind him, Zikra groaned. That sound anchored him. It cut through the ringing in his ears, through the static panic clawing at the back of his mind. Zikra was alive, hurt, bleeding, vulnerable, but alive. He stepped protectively between her and the smoke. More silhouettes emerged. Three this time, better prepared, weapons already tracking him. The air shimmered as plasma bolts sliced through the haze. One bolt grazed Kale's cheek. Pain exploded across his skin, sharp and blistering. He tasted blood. His instinct should have told him to fall back, to seek cover, to think. Instead, his muscles tightened, his stance shifted, and he moved forward, always forward. One insurgent lunged. Kale dropped low, tackling him at the waist. The impact rattled his bones. They crashed into a crate, the enemy's weapon clattering away. Kale grabbed it, not to fire, but to yank the insurgent off balance. A violent, stupid, very human headbutt followed. Stars detonated behind his eyes. The insurgent collapsed. Kale staggered but didn't fall. His ribs throbbed. His knuckles were already splitting. His vision blurred, but he kept moving. Another attacker rushed him. Kale pivoted, driving the wrench into the joint between armor plates. A scream tore through the helmet's speakers. Kale struck again, then again. Armor buckled. The figure dropped. Only one remained, hesitating now. Kale caught the flicker of doubt in the insurgent's posture, a hesitation rooted not in fear of death, but in confusion. Humans weren't supposed to do this. They weren't supposed to charge into close combat. They weren't supposed to take hits like this. They weren't supposed to keep getting up. Kale stepped toward him. The insurgent stepped back. Smoke twisted between them as Kale closed the distance, seized the rifle barrel with both burning hands, and drove the enemy sideways into a supporting pillar. The impact echoed through the bay. Kale slammed the wrench upward into the helmet, the body crumpled. Silence, brief, trembling fell, then more shadows appeared through the smoke. Dozens, Kale's legs trembled, his chest burned. His palms were raw, skin blistered. He felt each heartbeat like a hammer inside his chest. His vision shook. His body screamed at him to stop. Then he saw an insurgent turn toward Zikra's motionless form, every thought shattered. He moved forward, not because he was brave, not because he was trained, but because something old and brutally human roared inside him, something that had survived predators, storms, and 1,000 disasters long before his species walked among the stars. Protect your own, an armored insurgent raised his blade. Kale Torin, Threx's voice thundered, cutting through the chaos. DOWN. Kale didn't drop. He intercepted the attacker, sliding between the blade and Zikra. The insurgent swung. Kale ducked, twisted, and slammed his shoulder into the enemy's chest plate. Pain exploded across his ribs. He ignored it, driving his wrench into the weak joint under the arm. Once, twice. A third time, the armor cracked. The insurgent dropped. Kale swayed, gripping the wrench to keep himself upright. Threx appeared beside him in a storm of coordinated fire, all four arms working in perfect lethal rhythm. His mandibles spread in shock as he glanced at Kale's blood-covered face. "You are unsuited for combat," Threx growled, grabbing Kale's collar and dragging him behind a crate. "Too late," Kale gasped. "I already started." "What? You are unarmed. I have a wrench. You are untrained." "I noticed." Threx stared at him with something between fury and awe. Then the bay shook. A deep, roaring vibration rippled through the ceiling. Kale looked up through the fractured roof. Gunships, dozens of them. Valkyrie assault carriers descended like living thunder, engines bellowing, lights slicing through the smoke. The insurgents froze, then broke formation in a panic. Their retreat became a stampede as the carriers unleashed suppressive fire across the outpost perimeter. Within seconds, the enemy was in full collapse, fleeing the bay, abandoning equipment, wounded, and any hope of finishing the job. Kale dropped to one knee. His lungs felt like fire, his ribs stabbed with each breath. His hands shook uncontrollably. The wrench slipped from his fingers, clattering against the metal floor. Threx towered over him. "What are you?" The veteran whispered, breath trembling. Kale blinked through streaks of blood and sweat. "I'm an engineer." Consciousness crept back in fragments. First the ache in his ribs, sharp and insistent. Then the soft hum of machinery. Then the sensation of cold metal beneath his fingertips. Kale blinked until blurry shapes resolved into a curved ceiling lit with pale blue luminescence. A medical bay, but not the outpost infirmary. This one was sleek, advanced, quiet in a way only high technology could be quiet. Safe, he tried to sit up. Agony shot across his chest like lightning. He fell back with a strangled groan. "Remain still," a gentle synthetic voice said. "Your thoracic injuries have not completed stabilization." Kale exhaled, trying to breathe past the pain. His hands were encased in regenerative casts pulsing with faint light, almost like they were alive. His face felt half on fire from the plasma burn. Every inch of him hurt. "You regain awareness," a familiar voice said. Zikra stood beside him, shoulder encased in her own healing lattice. One of her forearms was immobilized, but the other three twitched in something like relief. "You're alive," Kale rasped. "And you are functional," Zikra said carefully, though this was not guaranteed. Kale swallowed, throat dry. "You okay?" "I am stabilized," she replied, "because you placed yourself between me and an armored insurgent. That behavior is, statistically, abnormal." "Impulse control failure," Kale muttered. "Classic human condition." The medical bay doors slid open. Every motion in the room stilled. Queen Shell entered like a cold front. Silent, tall, armored guards flanking her in symmetrical formation. Even the air seemed to tighten under her presence, as if the room recognized authority and adjusted itself accordingly. Zikra straightened instantly. Kale tried to sit up again. Pain punished him immediately. "Do not rise," the Queen commanded. "Your injuries remain critical." Kale sank back. "Your Majesty, sorry you had to see me like this." "I have seen much," the Queen replied. "I have not, however, seen anything resembling what you did on Velshara." She gestured. A holographic display flickered into existence above Kale's bed. The footage played, raw, violent, unfiltered. Kale watched himself hurling into armored enemies with suicidal determination, screaming, bleeding, hitting with the kind of desperation evolution carved deep into bone. At one point, he saw himself take a plasma bolt to the shoulder and keep moving. He winced. "Okay, that looks worse than it felt." The Queen paused the projection on an image of Kale mid-charge, blood streaming down his face, wrench raised, eyes wide with something primal. "Explain this," she said. Kale stared at the frozen image. He remembered the moment too clearly, Zikra bleeding, Threx's squad pinned, smoke choking his lungs, fear and instinct twisting together. "I wasn't thinking," he admitted. "There wasn't time. Zikra was down. Everyone else was pinned. Someone had to move. Preservation of your own life." Kale shook his head. "Didn't matter, not then." The Queen regarded him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. "You understand that such behavior contradicts every biological model we have for humans." "Maybe your models need updating," Kale muttered. "They are being updated," she said, "because you forced us to." She magnified the hologram, now overlaying data, human hormonal spikes, Valkyrie pain tolerance graphs, comparative endurance statistics. Kale stared at the numbers. They felt more alien than anything he'd seen since arriving in the Archanate. "This," the Queen said, "is what alarms me. Humans exhibit extreme adrenaline surges capable of overriding pain. Your muscles continue functioning during catastrophic damage. Your psychology prioritizes pack unity over self-preservation. Under stress, your aggression increases instead of collapsing." Kale frowned. "That sounds like panic." "No," the Queen said quietly. "It sounds like evolution designing a creature that refuses to die." The room went still. Zikra stared at Kale as if seeing him for the first time. The Queen lowered the hologram. "You fought after sustaining injuries that would kill a Valkyrie. You forced enemy soldiers to retreat through sheer will. And you did all of this without armor, without training, and without any logical chance of survival." Kale let out a breath. "I'm just an engineer." "Engineers do not fight like this," the Queen said. "Warriors do, or something older." He didn't know how to respond, so she answered herself. "You are not special," she said, "and that is the problem. If any human can become what you became in that bay, then we have catastrophically misunderstood your species." Kale blinked. "I'm dangerous." The Queen's antennae lowered in solemn confirmation. "Your species is dangerous. Because you are unyielding. Because you do not know when to fall. Because survival for you is not strategy, it is instinct." Kale lay back, pulse pounding. "I didn't ask for that." "No species asks for its nature," the Queen replied. "It possesses it, and reveals it only under fire." She stepped toward the door, her guards parting in perfect synchrony. "When your body is restored," she said, "we will discuss what comes next. For now, rest. There is much to understand." Kale's recovery stretched into a slow, stubborn routine. Valkyrie regenerative technology knitted bone and tissue faster than nature ever intended, but not fast enough to spare him the deep, bruising ache that lived beneath every breath. Each day he pushed himself a little farther, first across the medical bay, then down the corridors, then to the observation deck where Velkari soldiers drilled with insectoid precision. Zikra accompanied him when she was cleared for movement. Watching her navigate the ship with one arm immobilized felt strangely reassuring. Velkari rarely showed weakness. Seeing it in someone else made Kale feel less alien. "You look worse than yesterday," Zikra observed cheerfully. "Great," Kale muttered. "Healing through insults, very advanced therapy." Zikra clicked thoughtfully. "I will research additional methods." They had just reached the corridor intersection when the medical bay doors opened, revealing 3 Velkari officers in formal high command armor. Their insignia glowed with shifting prismatic lines, authority made visible. The lead officer stepped forward, tall, severe posture, antennae angled with rigid precision. "Kale Torin," she said. "I am Commander Vrelka of the Archanate Strategic Division. You will accompany us immediately." Zikra's antennae snapped upright. "He has not completed recovery." "He is ambulatory," Vrelka replied. "That is sufficient." A chill crept down Kale's spine, but he followed. The officers guided him through a series of heavily shielded corridors, each checkpoint more fortified than the last. The air grew cooler, quieter. The hum of the flagship's engines faded into a low, pulsing vibration beneath his feet. Finally, they stopped before a circular door etched with ceremonial markings. It opened with a deep, resonant hiss. Inside was a war chamber, round, dim, illuminated by a suspended ring of holographic projections. Maps, biological scans, combat footage. Dozens of high-ranking Velkari officers stood around the room, their eyes turning toward Kale with unnerving focus. The door sealed behind him. Kale suddenly felt as though he had walked into an autopsy being conducted on a creature that hadn't realized it was the corpse. "Sit," Commander Vrelka instructed. He sat. General Throven, an older Velkari with an exoskeleton scarred from decades of battle, stepped forward. His voice held the weight of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Kale Torin, we convened because your actions during the Velshara breach defy every assessment of human capability." Kale raised a weak hand. "Just so we're all clear, I didn't know I could do any of that either." A few mandibles clicked. Disbelief? Amusement? Kale no longer tried to decipher Velkari emotional cues. Vrelka activated the hologram. The battle replayed in slow motion, Kale charging into armored insurgents, bloodied, screaming, relentless. Each blow from the wrench echoed through the chamber like a ceremonial drumbeat. Kale winced. "Okay, we can skip this part. I get the idea, bad form, overcommitment, possible traumatic brain injury." "Observe," Vrelka said sharply. She magnified the moment Kale took a plasma bolt to the shoulder and kept advancing. "Most soft-bodied species," she said, "would have collapsed," you continued. "I didn't feel much at the time," Kale admitted. "There was a lot going on." "Yes," Vrelka replied. "Too much, yet you remained functional." She projected biological overlays, heart rate spikes, adrenaline surges, oxygen deprivation curves. Numbers flashed in red. "Kale Torin," Throven said, "you exceeded predicted human thresholds by a factor of 4. Kale blinked. "Is that bad?" "It is alarming," Vrelka corrected. "We believed humans prioritized self-preservation." Kale snorted. "Clearly you've never been to Black Friday." The room stared at him in silence. "Never mind," he muttered. Throven continued. "You behaved as though you had combat training." "I didn't," Kale said. "It was instinct." "Exactly," Vrelka said. "Instincts cannot be suppressed, only directed." Kale felt a cold weight settle behind his ribs. "So what do you want from me?" The officers exchanged glances, subtle but unmistakably tense. "Queen Shell has issued an order," Throven said. "Humans assigned to Archanate operations must undergo reclassification." Kale's stomach sank. "Reclassification to what?" "Combat-adjacent personnel," Vrelka replied, "with evaluation for special operations potential." Kale stared in disbelief. "I'm an engineer." "You repaired more than machinery," the general said. "You repaired a collapsing tactical situation. You prevented 3 soldier fatalities. You destabilized an enemy force with nothing but improvisation and will." Kale swallowed hard. Vrelka stepped closer, lowering her voice to something cold and precise. "Understand this. We are not reassessing you because of strength. Velkari drones possess greater force output." She paused. "We are reassessing you because you did not break." Kale froze. The words landed like a blow. "You continued functioning after injuries that should have ended conscious operation," Vrelka said. "You advanced under conditions where all probability models indicate retreat. You attacked while outnumbered. You protected comrades at the cost of your own survival. Her mandibles clicked softly. This, she said, is not strength, it is something far more unpredictable. Throven nodded. Kale wasn't escorted from the war chamber so much as released, carefully, like someone carrying an unstable power cell no one wanted to jostle. Commander Vrelka's voice lingered in his skull the entire walk back. We fear what you cannot turn off. Zikra was waiting outside the corridor, antennae rigid with concern. When she spotted him, she hurried over, 3 arms already reaching to check for injuries. You are unharmed. They did not perform neural extraction, forced memory mapping. Kale blinked. No, Zikra, they just asked a lot of questions. Zikra exhaled sharply. A clicking pattern he had learned was her version of relief. Your posture indicates elevated tension. Would you like comfort snacks? Humans enjoy edible coping rituals, sugars, salts, crunchy things that lie about solving emotional distress. Kale managed a thin laugh. Yeah, I love comfort snacks. She turned to leave and Kale gently caught her good arm. Zikra, I'm fine. She studied him in silence, eyes reflecting cold corridor light. You are unsettled. That obvious. Your facial muscles are stiff. Humans display distress very loudly. Kale sighed. They weren't studying what I did, they were studying what humans are. Zikra's antennae lowered. They must. Our assumptions were incorrect. Yeah, well, I liked the assumptions where humans were the fragile ones. Before she could answer, heavy footsteps approached. Threx. The veteran soldier stopped before Kale and assumed a stance Kale recognized instantly. One Threx had never used with him before. Respect, not cautious respect. Warrior-to-warrior respect. Kale Torin, Threx said, voice low, you will come with me. High Command requests observation of your movement patterns. Kale hesitated. Movement patterns? Threx, I didn't fight. I panicked. I told them this, Threx said. They did not accept it. Zikra added unhelpfully. They believe panic is a latent human attack mode. Kale rubbed his face. Of course they do. The 3 walked toward the training deck. But with every step, Kale felt something shift. Valkyrie soldiers paused mid-drill to watch him pass, antennae tilting instinctively backward, the Valkyrie body language signal for unease. Others subtly stepped aside, giving him a wider berth than necessary. Soft whispers followed him like static. There goes the soft shell. No, not soft anymore. The unbreaking one. He fought like an ancient monster. Are all humans like that? Kale's stomach tightened. He had never wanted to be noticed. Now he was a campfire everyone stared at, unsure if it would warm them or explode. The training deck doors opened. Huge, circular. Platforms hanging over open machinery. Holographic targets flickering between forms. Valkyrie soldiers training in perfect geometric choreography. Everything stopped the moment they saw him. Every head turned. Every mandible lowered. Every antenna angled away from him in instinctive caution. Not fear of injury, fear of unpredictability. Threx leaned toward him. Your presence has become disruptive. Kale swallowed. I'm sorry. Do not apologize, Threx said. They are adjusting to your species parameters. That makes me feel worse. Good, it should. The deck officer approached, a lithe Valkyrie with tactical markings carved into her exoskeleton. I am Lieutenant Veshara, she said, assigned to evaluate your combat responses. Kale held up both bandaged hands. I don't have combat responses, I fix generators. You improvised a melee approach under live fire, Veshara replied. Our data shows targeted aggression. I wasn't aggressive, Kale said. I was terrified. Veshara's antennae flicked. Terror-generating precise offense is troubling. She gestured toward a circular arena. Enter, do not attack. We examine unconscious decisions. Kale stepped in, pulse hammering. The arena activated. Holographic figures formed around him, blurred silhouettes with shifting outlines. Not fully solid, but fast, too fast. One lunged. Kale jerked aside. Another flickered behind him. His body twisted before his mind registered the movement. A third darted low. His leg blocked it without conscious intent. He wasn't choosing, he wasn't planning, he wasn't thinking. He was responding, guided by something raw and deeply carved into human biology, something older than technology, older than reason, older than civilization. The targets accelerated, his breath shortened, his ribs burned. But his body kept moving in instinctive patterns, weight shifting, balance recalibrating, attention narrowing to threats before he registered them as threats. When the simulation cut off, Kale stood hunched in the center, drenched in sweat, heart battering his chest. Not from fear, from familiarity. This is what I felt in the bay. This is the same thing stripped of blood and noise. Veshara approached cautiously as if Kale were still in motion. Concerning, she said softly. Your reflexes exceed expected human limits, and yet they are chaotic. No doctrine, no formation, no training, pure instinct shaping evasion. Threx's mandibles clicked. He moves like the old war clans did. Before we learned discipline. Kale wiped his forehead. I don't want to be part of any clan, I just don't like dying. That, Veshara said, is precisely what makes you dangerous. Whispers rose across the deck. The summons arrived at dawn, a concept that meant nothing aboard a starship where illumination shifted on command rather than by the whim of suns. Kale hadn't slept. Every time he shut his eyes, he saw flickers of the training arena blurs lunging at him, his body responding with frightening speed, his mind trailing behind like an afterthought. He wasn't sure what unsettled him more, that he had fought well, or that it had felt disturbingly natural. The corridor outside his room was unnervingly quiet, too quiet. It was the kind of silence that felt intentional, like the ship itself was holding its breath. Threx waited there, posture sharp and formal. Kale Torin, he said, the Queen requests your presence. Kale swallowed. Is this because of the analysis? Yes, Threx replied, and because the consequences have grown. Before Kale could ask what that meant, Zikra appeared, clutching datapads like protective charms. I compiled medical charts, stress response models, and also snacks, she announced. Humans require snacks for emotional stability. Kale almost smiled. Thanks, Zikra, but this probably isn't a snack meeting. Her antennae drooped. I will wait here and hiss at anyone suspicious. You hiss. Only at threats. Comforting, Kale muttered. Threx led him down a corridor so fortified it felt like walking into a secure vault. Guards stood every few meters, their antennae angled subtly away from Kale, a Velkari instinctual signal of unease. They weren't guarding him. They were guarding around him, preparing for anything. They reached the throne chamber. The doors opened with a slow, resonant groan, as if announcing that something irreversible was about to occur. Queen Shell stood alone beneath a column of cold light. No guards beside her. No advisors. Her authority filled the room like the gravity of a collapsing star. Kale Torin, she said, come forward. He approached. The chamber felt too large, shadows stretching like silent witnesses. Even the hum of the ship seemed muted, as though the vessel itself recognized the moment's weight. Do you know why you have been summoned? The Queen asked. I'm guessing it's not for a commendation, Kale said. A faint twitch of her mandibles, Velkari amusement, sharp and dangerous. You have altered the Archanate, she said, and we must now redefine how we perceive your species. She activated the holographic projection. Not battlefield logs, not biological scans, not combat recordings. One word, human. Class Theta Prime. The letters rotated slowly, ominously, like a verdict carved into stone. Kale's heart dropped. Theta Prime, what does that even mean? The hologram expanded into a full dossier. Theta Prime designation, irreversible. Non-native species, displaying anomalous combat resilience. Instinct-driven threat responses, beyond predictive modeling. Pain tolerance, extreme. Duress behavior, volatile escalating, coordinated. Survival drive, unbreakable. Potential for battlefield destabilization, high. Kale stared. You're classifying me like I'm hazardous equipment. Yes, the Queen said. Because you are. A chill wrapped itself around his spine. I didn't ask for this, Kale whispered. Nature does not consult preference, the Queen replied. It reveals itself under pressure. She walked a slow circle around him. Under fire, you became something that should not exist, a soft-bodied species performing beyond trained warriors. You advanced through injuries. You protected comrades at the cost of yourself. You continued when all logic predicted collapse. Her eyes, four mirrored lenses, studied him carefully. We do not fear your strength, Kale Torin. Strength can be measured. Strength can be countered. She leaned in slightly. We fear your refusal to break. Kale couldn't breathe. He opened his mouth, closed it, then forced words out. So what does this mean for me? The Queen raised a hand. New documents appeared, contracts, orders, insignias bearing the royal crest. At my command, your corporate contract has been restructured. You are no longer civilian personnel. You will serve as a combat engineer under royal authority, attached to rapid response operations. Kale felt the ground tilt. I don't want to be a soldier, he said softly. No warrior ever does, the Queen replied. They simply rise when the universe demands it. He wanted to argue, to insist that they were wrong. That what happened on Velshara had been chaos, adrenaline, instinct, not destiny. But he remembered the wrench connecting with armor, the plasma bolt searing past his face, Zikra bleeding, Threx shouting, his body refusing to yield. Something inside him had awakened, something ancient, something human. The chamber doors suddenly burst open. Zikra sprinted in, ignoring every rule of decorum, 3 arms flailing. Kale, I came as fast as I could. Are you being conscripted? Tell me you are not being conscripted. The queen did not turn. It is not conscription, it is classification. Zikra grabbed Kale's arm. Do you want this? Kale hesitated. Did he want it? No. But want had never mattered. People lived because he moved. People survived because he refused to quit. People were counting on him. He took a breath. No, Kale said truthfully. I don't want it. Zikra's antennae lowered, but I accept it. The chamber seemed to inhale. Queen Shell stepped forward and extended one of her 4 hands, an honor rarely given, reserved for warriors of exceptional distinction. Kale Torin, she said solemnly, you rise today not as an anomaly, but as the first of your kind recognized by the Archanate. Stand as human, and let the galaxy learn what that truly means. Kale lifted his head. Zikra stood at his side, trembling with pride. Threx waited in the doorway, giving a warrior's nod. The hologram flickered overhead. Human Theta Prime, unpredictable, unyielding,